Hello, my name's Mike Ward. I'm the head of content at Script, Pink Sheet and In Vivo. We're here in Copenhagen at the BIOEurope 2018 meeting, and I'm joined by Frans Wuite, who's the CEO of, in fact, a local company, a Danish biotech called Acesion Pharma. Now, Frans, you're actually in a space which is, in the cardiovascular space, you're looking at arrhythmias. Arrhythmia has always been a pretty tough area for drug discovery and drug development. So, why make life so hard for yourselves?
Well, I think we've been pretty fortunate to find a target which is selectively expressed in one part of the heart, so it doesn't affect the other part of the heart,
Right.
and thereby can avoid these otherwise quite common side effects on the heart,
Right.
which can be potentially dangerous and has limited really the uptake of pharmacotherapy in this area.
Right. So normally, what happens when people are trying to treat arrhythmia, the drugs affect the whole heart, and you're looking at a particular area?
Exactly right. So it's the atria, and it's the largest cardiac arrhythmia is the atrial fibrillation. It affects virtually everyone. If you're above 40 years of age, 25% lifetime chance to get it. So it's quite common, and there's really not a very good way to treat that. And then you can distinguish between acute episodes that you get, and gradually the disease tends to get longer and longer and of duration, and then you get into a persistent and ultimately a permanent state of atrial fibrillation. And then it's very difficult to treat anything, actually.
Okay, so you've identified the target, and then you've identified a molecule that will interact with that target.
That's correct, and actually we've gone through more than 1,000 compounds before we selected our lead compound in the first indication. And as mentioned, we have drugs, we have a portfolio, it's not a one-trick pony. We have something for the hospital to start when the episodes appear. We've got a pill of the same compound that can be taken at home or closer to the home if the patient needs some caretaking by others. And we also have a drug in development for longer acting use, which will be for maintenance therapy not to get into that atrial fibrillation in the first place.
Right.
And some patients who have very frequent episodes benefit from that type of treatment. So that's called maintenance therapy.
Okay. But the work you do at the moment is, then it must be quite considerable, just the safety issues around heart drugs. So where are you actually in the development of your molecule?
So indeed, that is the key question. I think for any regulator, that is the key parameter to look into in the first place. And we will, throughout the whole development program, be very mindful about the extraordinary pressure on safety demonstration. And therefore we have, before we embarked on the clinical studies, we have done an extensive and a disproportionate amount of preclinical studies, both efficacy-wise, but particularly also safety-wise, demonstrating really that we indeed, in various species, I think we have 6 species that we have treated so far, including large animal species. And there we have demonstrated that we indeed affect the atria, but not the ventricles, which can be potentially lethal side effects if you dysregulate them, as you were insinuating a moment ago. So I think that's important. So we've been passionate about the things that we don't see. You can measure these, the ECG, and that's a sort of interesting state to be in. And the team has been passionate to see also that in the first phase 1 study that we've done, we haven't seen any untoward side effects, which is extremely important and encouraging for us to move on now to phase 2.
Right, and in a phase 1, normally phase 1 studies are not that big for a lot of sort of biotech companies. In this space, how many people did you have to do in?
Well, there again, this is the first drug is for acute use, so it really tries to convert you back into your normal heart rhythm within half an hour. Right. So you don't have very long follow-up periods. Of course, you do for safety period, you tend to follow them up for 24, 48 hours. But otherwise, it's quite a quick thing to undertake. So we have had, in the phase 1, typically you do different dose cohorts, so you tend to go higher in doses, and we've gone up to very supratherapeutic doses, expected dose levels, and we haven't seen any side effects that would cause alarm here. And so to get more into the figures, we have, I think it's 47, 48 was the intention. One perhaps missed the bus or so, but 47 who have been treated, and those are healthy volunteers always in phase 1 in this setting.
Yes. Right. And sort of you're going forward, so you've completed the phase 1. Sort of what's the next stage? What are you doing now?
So obviously after phase 1 we go to phase 2 normally. Yeah. And so that is our plan. And phase 2, you pick the dose that you think will be safe to give based upon your results in phase 1 and give it to patients. And also there you tread very carefully and measure all the things that you need to measure. The nice thing about this setting is that you don't have in all settings is that you have quite a ready and quick readout of the possibility to affect various parts of the heart by measuring the ECG. Yeah. So the electrocardiogram is a very nice tool to do so. Yeah. So you can very carefully assess whether you're doing anything on the ventricles or not. Yeah. And that's what we're also looking into in the phase 2. So that's a phase 2 study, and with the phase 2 we'll also look into the effect in various doses. So we have 3 dose levels that we plan on looking into.
And the magnitude of the trial, I mean, in terms of how many patients you're going to...
120 patients would be there.
So 120 patients, and where's that? I mean, is that going to be conducted here in Denmark, or is it going to be across Europe, or?
Well, these are quite universally present patients, but we have 3 countries in Europe, out of which one is in Denmark, indeed. Yeah. Just to be closer by and to be able to monitor the progress of the study from very close by. We never get the second introduction, first introduction the second time, as they say, so we're very keen on monitoring the progress real hand.
And as you mentioned, it's actually quite quick to sort of see what the endpoint is, and sort of you measure that. So what is the sort of the duration for? Well, when do you expect to complete the phase 2 trial, and then we might see some readouts?
Well, actually, the way it works is that we'd go in with the highest tolerable dose, and then if it has excellent efficacy, we can add on these other dose cohorts to it, lower dose cohorts. Yeah. And the first part of it, we will know whether this works in sufficiently good manner within a year's time from now. So by the end of next year, perhaps not at the BIOEurope at that time, but by the end of next year, we'll know more whether it works to satisfaction or not.
Right, and explain to me, so you described this sort of the 3 clinical settings, for example, the emergency hospital setting, then the more sort of, I guess, anxious home setting, and then the sort of the maintenance setting. Do you have to run different trials for each of those settings?
I think that's a good question. I think for these different types of therapeutic approaches, yes, you do. But the initial setting will be a hospital setting. It's an IV drug, which will be given together with an infusion. So that is confined to a manageable audience, and that's where we dare take our first steps to provide proof of concept. Because if it really works and we can provide a cardioversion, then that bodes well to the other products to be developed in similar fashion. And those need to be tested indeed in the appropriate setting, be that open or outpatient care, or be that even at home by patients in the maintenance setting.
Okay, but 120 patients, I mean, that's not going to be inexpensive. So how is the company going to sort of finance this activity?
We're lucky to have good believers as investors, including one of the biggest, I think the biggest life science investor in Europe, and that's Novo Holdings.
Right. Yeah.
Who also owns the majority, or at least controlling stake, of Novo Nordisk, a local player well known to everyone. And so they have great belief and trust in that we're doing the right thing. We also have Broadview Ventures from Boston. So there's unusual American interest early on already. We're very happy with that. And then we've been, I think, one of the very few that have obtained 2 awards by the Wellcome Trust from Britain to take us through proof of concept. So with these means, we're quite well covered to take us through proof of concept. Then we have some grant monies as well that we very gratefully receive, and so that gets us further.
So, but you're at a meeting like this, I mean, okay, so it's in your hometown or pretty close to your hometown, but it's an opportunity for people to meet either investors or potential investors, or also potential pharmaceutical partners. So for you, what is the sort of the purpose of being at BIOEurope?
It's twofold indeed. Well, maybe threefold. We like to network with people, as you say, in Britain or in America. When you need friends, it's too late. So that's what we think, and tend to care for our networks. But more succinctly, pharma partners have approached us, we have approached some, we tell them what we're up to, and there's not that much in this area, and these are big areas, and they have cardiovascular drugs perhaps in the portfolio that run off patent in a few years' time. And it's very meaningful for them to have good portfolios, to have, serve the cardiology community with appropriate tools for the future as well. So that's what we do, and then we have investors who we also approach should we decide upon embarking a more extensive autonomous route of drug development ourselves.
Okay. Well, Frans, thanks very much for stopping by.
It was very pleasant. Thank you, Mike.